Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to the year-end edition of the ODPH. I am your host, Ken M., and sitting across from me in the brand new studio is the sound guy galore, JR.
Oh, you know I'm right here, buddy.
Absolutely. And the rest of the panel, unfortunately, could not make it this week, so shout out to Coach Duffy, shout out to Padawan J, shout out to Frederick Theodore, shout out to you for listening to us as we're going to be giving you our year-in review awards, if you will. We're still thinking of a name of them because, well, it's kind of like a little short notice thing that we decided to do to cap off the year that was 2017 in sports. But before we get into that, we got to go over our locks and leaps. Now, JR, why don't you let us know how you did last week?
Well, I believe it was the panel who laughed at me as I made my lock because you were questioning whether or not it was my leap or it was my lock, and I said Jimmy GQ was going to be the gunslinger at home.
I'm telling you, man.
And slow down that Jacksonville train, and I'm pretty sure they did.
What he's pulling off in Frisco is astounding to me. Not saying that he didn't have the talent around him, but just a small change in quarterback, and you almost got to wonder, why did they wait so long to make the move, like you pointed out in previous episodes?
Yep.
Jacksonville, obviously, they kind of know where they are in the playoffs scenario for the AFC, so not saying that they really had that much on the line, but Frisco decided to go make a statement, and if I'm the GM of San Francisco, I need to lock Jimmy up ASAP before the offseason.
Well, and it's funny because immediately after the game, as your boy, as I told you with my swollen ego last week, called this lock, as actually when talking to more people around the area, we're starting to believe that, eventually it's a tough road game. I mean, it's not, people don't take the Niners seriously, which is exactly why they would stumble, because they were still competing for a chance at a 2 seed. They needed some help from Pittsburgh to lose or New England. Then they could have leapfrogged and gotten the 2. They would have needed a little bit of help, but they still had that shot. So this game was meaningful for them.
It was, but
had Buffalo been able to get the job done, that could have made that a little interesting, and they could have leapfrogged for the 2 and had the first round bye. But they didn't get it done. But as far as Jacksonville, this is what we've gone and talked about before, is that the defense is supposedly okay, but Jimmy Garoppolo and those boys put up 40 on them. They put up 40 plus on that defense. So on a road game, granted, they had to go across country. Say what you will. You may have been looking forward. You might have been looking for the end of the year, but that defense did not look good. Blake Bortles looked terrible in that game. They led a pretty good charge at the end, but it didn't give much hope for the number 3 seed in the AFC right now.
I think they were looking a little ahead of them, and I think they took Frisco a little too lightly. And this is where it came back to haunt them because, like you said, Jimmy dropped how many points on him?
Oh, it was 44.
Yeah. When you're dropping 44 on the supposedly best defense in the league, you're making a statement. And for him, like I said, you need to lock him up ASAP if you're the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, the Niners have talked, and they said at minimum they're going to franchise tag him. And that's going to be mid to upper 20s.
Okay, can they do that? Because I wasn't sure because it was a late mid-season trade or how that works.
They can tag him.
Okay.
Yeah. So they tag him, and they're gonna get the Kirk Cousins deal. It's be 24-ish, somewhere probably right in that number. It's 20. It's like I said, it's somewhere in that mid-20s number they can tag him for at minimum, and then start working the contract with him. But again, if he looks at all as good as he is now, cha-ching.
You have to do something. And I think for their fan base, they need this kind of spark to reignite them a little bit. Because obviously how they started off this year, not the best look, but they're rebounding very well.
The downside is their draft pick is getting worse.
Yeah.
However, you take the good with the bad. The pick is now moving into like the teens, which is bad, at least from the first-round pick standpoint. But the positive is, wow, this team's actually looking good. They haven't lost since Jimmy GQ has taken over. Positive swing there in San Fran.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at it if you're part of the Niner fan base. I think you have to look at that as a positive. Your draft pick is going down, so to speak, but if you're winning, you don't really need a high draft pick. We take a look at teams that are having multiple high draft picks and still haven't turned it around just yet.
That's right.
Not to say that couldn't happen next season, but if you're looking at right here, right now, Frisco, you got to be saying this is a positive, not a negative.
Absolutely. Now, I told you in the last week I didn't have any faith in this leap with Oakland because I'm sure they'd find a way to screw it up, and I knew I was going to get Cole for Christmas from them, and sure enough I did. They look bad. Carr looked bad. Marshawn had his first fumble as an Oakland Raider in that game, and I'm like, but for me, the positive being a Skull Nation fan gave me all the support I needed to know that Philadelphia's in serious trouble if they struggle against an Oakland team at home.
I was just going to say that.
And look that bad. I'm not worried about them at all anymore because you're going to get a Carolina team that's going to win their first round game. You've got a Rams team. I mean, either one of those teams I would fear to go into Philadelphia. If you're an Eagles fan, you're getting a little worried because that game was pitiful against Oakland, and Cam Newton and those guys are no joke. So
Foles did not look that good in that game. And I completely agree with you. I think that Philly needs to play lights out defense, and I mean Oakland hung with them, and even with, like you said, with all the turnovers they were having, they almost won that game.
Yeah,
I mean and for Philly, I mean granted, Wentz is out, Foles is in. Foles is an adequate number 2, but is that enough to get you to the Super Bowl? Debatable. I mean, I think if he can play a little sharper and minimize the turnovers and the bad passes, yeah, you got a chance. I mean, your defense is playing stout, and you also have your offense is not too shabby with your running game and your wide receivers. So it's not to say you can't do it, but it's definitely not the way you want to go into the playoffs, even with the first-round bye that you have going out like you did with Oakland. I mean, granted, they did win, but still not enough to really kind of solidify a good feeling going forward.
No, I like I said, I am obviously very biased in this, knowing that Minnesota is the 2 seed. They did their part pitching the goose egg. Yes. Like a real defense does. Granted, it was the pathetic Green Bay Packers who are completely decimated in every category of their team. However, moving forward, it gave me a lot of hope knowing that Philadelphia's in a lot of trouble because I'm sorry, but you're gonna tell me you're confident that Nick Foles is going to lead after that game last night, that Nick Foles is going to lead that charge against a Cam Newton team or against a Todd Gurley team? Because I'm starting to have some questions, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'd be a little questioning that myself too.
Because honestly, like when we were watching the game last night, I don't know if you caught any of it either, but they showed in the third quarter of that game, they put up a stat that they are averaging their number 1 rush defense, Minnesota number 2, ching against the run anyway. Philadelphia is averaging only 88 yards against the rush, which is best in the NFL by a long shot. They had 150 yards on the ground against that defense before the fourth quarter even started in that game, and that's a problem because you've got Foles who's going 3 and out on that offense that looked terrible. They were sputtering all over the place. So I mean, their defense is vulnerable, but again, they get tired. They're on the field all the time, and that defense is great, but eventually, after 70, 80, 90 plays. They're going to tire. They're going to gas. Yeah,
they'll wear out. I mean, right. It happens to every great team. No matter how good your team is or how great they are, if you're on the field for the majority of the game, you're going to get tired out, and that's when plays happen.
And I certainly thought watching that game, you could tell that defense they were gassing. I mean, they start the fourth quarter and they're gassed.
Yeah,
linebackers are tired of trying to stop Marshawn Lynch because they keep feeding them, and they're granted, like I said, they're on the field way too long because the offense is just sputtering under Nick Foles. So. For me, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I was hoping Oakland would give us a chance to possibly leapfrog and take the 1 seed, but that's all right. It gave me a lot of hope for Minnesota to be able to conquer them. But how'd you do on your leaks this week?
Well, let's see. My lock came through. I said Pittsburgh was going to rebound from the game that was in New England and decided to definitely put up some points on Houston. But dare I say the catch of the year, though, DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know how he pulled that off. I've watched it maybe about 10 times, and I think it's a better catch than the Odell Beckham Jr. catch.
Oh, I mean, the Odell Beckham one was pretty crazy, but this one, man, I don't know if you never saw it. We've got to post it on the page, but holy smokes!
Yeah, just the complete coordination, switching hands, midair, keeping the feet in bounds. Hopkins did his thing on that, and I mean, even if it was a losing effort, that's what I take away from the game because Pittsburgh did what they needed to do. And they're looking strong going into this week, albeit they got Cleveland coming up. It's whatever you're going to get out of them, who knows? It is a division game. So, but I mean, they've already pretty much locked up the number 2 seed.
Right. They can't lose it. They can't. Yeah. They can't surpass New England, and they can't fall from the 2 seed. So I mean, you really kind of take for granted how much they're really going to give Cleveland.
Yeah.
What they're going to provide in that Cleveland game. Probably give a lot of people some rest.
Yeah, that would be the smart thing to do, but it's a rivalry game. I can't really see the Steelers sitting too much
do they take the chance at losing?
But that's the thing, yeah.
And giving them the satisfaction of being the 1-15 team?
This has to be one of the hardest games to kind of to pre-plan for. Because, yeah, if you're the Steelers, you don't want to be that team that gets beat by the Browns, especially with the history of those two teams.
And it's your rival. Like you said, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be that. But at the same token, you saw what happened to Antonio Brown. Now, granted, it was a kind of a fluke injury, but still, do you want your stars getting hurt before going into the playoffs? If you can give them some extra rest going in there.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about this, and I feel like it's with any rivalry. Okay, so like Buffalo this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Their upcoming game. Who's it against?
Miami.
Okay, neither one of them are playing for competition, but you damn well know that they're not going to just lay over for the other team and just have a practice.
Buffalo needs to win, and they need some luck to stay in the sixth seed, to get into the sixth seed. Granted, they need some luck, so they got a little something to play for.
But even if it's, I mean, no matter who it is, like Minnesota, we can't go up as a 1 and we can't go down as a 2. But I promise you, we're not going to lose at home to the Bears.
Well, that's the thing. If you
so
have
they'll push, but they won't push too hard, knowing that there's. And the Bears are going to come out. Of course, they're going to be pissed off. They don't want to, they're going to lay over. Like, we understand you need some rest. We'll lay over.
If any athlete plays a game, they have some pride and they want to win. I mean, that's just how it is. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to just completely roll over by any means.
No.
But I could definitely see maybe the gas pedal not getting hit so hard.
Oh, yeah. Tomlin is that kind of coach. He's definitely going to be like, all right, guys, listen, it's cute, whatever. But I'd rather, we got a big game to prepare for. We're not going to worry about the 0-15 Browns and if they get a win or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I think they'd be more concerned about getting everybody healthy and going into the playoffs and making some noise and going far.
A Super Bowl ring's a lot more important than a difference between a 12-4 team and a 13-3 team if you're in the same boat anyway.
Absolutely. And my leap was Kansas City decided to be the Kansas City of old and crush the Miami Dolphins, eliminating them from the playoffs. Being the Bills fan that I am, I mean, it always makes me happy when Miami loses. That's just me. And obviously going into this weekend, if the Bills can beat Miami again, they can only control so much of their own destiny going forward. I mean,
they need some help.
I don't think they're going to get it. I mean, if you have to, my prediction, I think the Chargers somehow sneak in there. Because I know Tennessee needs to win to stay in. Baltimore, I think, needs to do the same thing too.
If Baltimore wins out, they're in. So they win. They take care of business. They're in no matter what.
But I think if Tennessee should lose and the Chargers win and the Bills win, the Chargers got the tiebreaker over them, I believe. So I think that's the team I'd be worried about going to the playoffs, which we're going to talk about on another episode, or NFL playoff breakdown. But this week, Kansas City did their thing. They're locked in for the playoffs. And, I mean, who knows? If they're getting hot at the right time, they can definitely be a force to reckon with in the AFC. It's going to be a fun playoff series, I think, on both sides of the divisions to watch. I don't think there's like one team that you're penciling in to go completely over everybody. New England is looking tough, though. So you kind of maybe give them a slight edge, but it's slight at best because you don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Let us know what you think. We're going to take a quick break and start talking some year-end review, year-end rewards. I don't know what else we're going to say, but we're going to do something here. This is the ODPH. We're now on iTunes. That's right. The Ocho Duro Parlay Hour is now on iTunes. So download, rate, and subscribe. Spread the word, and thank you for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I'm the street light guiding you home. Avoid the wrong step into dark.
Coming back, the second segment of the ODPH this week. In the spirit that is giving, we thought we should be thankful for the sports for giving us the best moments of 2017. And we figured we'd give you our best moments from 2017.
Absolutely. This year was a lot of crazy things happening in sports. I mean, the one moment that sticks out for me, well, actually there's two, but I'm going to break down the first one, though, was the Super Bowl comeback of the New England Patriots. Now, I am not a Patriots fan by any means, but I do respect them. They are a well-run organization, and they find ways to win no matter what. But that come-from-behind win was just something truly astonishing. I mean, I've never seen in a Super Bowl something like that happen. But let alone with the adversity that was going on with Brady going into that season and just how the Patriots just fought to win and come back. And, I mean, you got to tip your hats to them. I mean, as much as I hate saying it, I mean, they are what they are, Super Bowl champions. Jay, you got any thoughts on that?
It's funny because I know Pat, and we've talked about it on the show episodes ago, but with the 28-3 blowing the lead, Atlanta blew a 25-point lead. Everybody's making a mockery of it, and it's like, all right, you give it a rest. You kind of can't.
No,
I mean, it was so epic that there's no way you're gonna let it go. It's so incredibly hard to think. Like, I mean, we all started that halftime show thinking, wow, Atlanta's gonna kill them.
Yeah,
this game is over. Like, this has embarrassed me. Like, oh my God, the Super Bowl may be one of the biggest blowouts since Denver and Seattle.
Yeah,
but to sit there and watch that game, and I think you can attest to it. I know I certainly can attest to it. But as we're watching that game, you thought with 10 minutes to go when they first scored, you're like, oh shoot, here comes New England. Like, here they go. You're like, oh no, here it comes. Like the breakdown that is, and then you start watching. You're like, I mean, if you're not a New England fan, that's how you felt. You're like, oh God, Atlanta's going to choke. They're like, oh God, here it comes. Tom Brady's in a groove. He can't miss. Each drive, he's 5 for 5 for 80 yards, and they're just like, oh God, here it comes.
And the craziest thing to me about that is how well Atlanta's running game was in the first half, and then they just stopped it in the second. I still cannot wrap my head around that. And I'm not trying to just keep raining down on the Falcons about that. But you figure when you have a lead like that, you just want to run the clock out as quick as possible. And you were running the ball extremely well in that first half. So to stop doing it and start passing, and then New England, I mean, they make the best second half adjustments in all of football, without question. If you give them that much time to plan in pregame, and Belichick, he can do it on the fly. I don't know how he does it, but he can just whip up a new game plan and look at what happened. It's truly, it's truly something. I mean, I can't, as much as I hate saying it.
And and when we had the coach on, and we've talked about like with the Ben McAdoo thing, it's like, man, your team's down 30 at the halftime. What'd you tell your team? We're gonna watch some film.
You're gonna watch the tape.
And like that just right there shows you the as again, I'm not a New England fan, and I know Pat's jumping up and down somewhere, but that just shows you the true mind that is Bill Belichick, to think, you're down in the Super Bowl, the biggest game in sports, that moment, and you're getting throttled, and to sit there and go, we got this.
Yeah.
And then turn around and have a game plan and execute it and actually have it work, and you're like, I mean, you can't fault him for it. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It is impressive. I mean, he is what he is, and he's a winning coach, and the track record is there, that they find ways to win. And I don't know how they do it. I watch enough games. I know as a Bills fan, I've seen more Patriot games than I probably should. And just watching them play, and just if you give them that much time to come back, they find ways to do it. My other moment of the year, though, this is going to be kind of a left field one, because we are based out of the 607. And this year, I mean, for me, a moment was seeing kind of the sports team renaissance in this area. This year, we had the Binghamton Rumble Ponies come, and the inaugural season. The work they've done at Nice Egg Stadium is truly phenomenal. I keep screaming out here during the season, you need to go to games. I started going after I went to the Excite Wrestling show, and I've been hooked since, and I've gone to as many games as I can. I mean, it is truly an experience to go. Binghamton Devils had their first season here since the Binghamton Senators left for their new franchise, and the name escapes me at this moment. Maybe I just don't even like talking about them. I kind of have it blocked out. But the Devils are here now. Granted, the season has not started out the way they planned, but there's still a lot of hockey left. And the major thing is there's AHL hockey in this area.
Yep.
And to put in the Triple Crown, the Binghamton Bulldogs, we now have an ABA team, and they're doing rather well. And every time you go to a game there, it's standing room only, and it's packed. It's a fun environment. Just seeing the renaissance, if I can use that word, of how all of a sudden our quiet little town that everybody has always complained there's nothing going on, there's 3 sport teams that are doing absolutely well and making it worthwhile to leave your house and go support. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, that's one sports moment that sticks out for me, because I could ramble on about games I've gone to, and just the experience and seeing the fan base and seeing the town come alive for it. That's something to me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great because, like you said, we hear a lot about it, and it's like, man, what are you going to do on a Friday night? We've got hockey, which is always a good game to go to. I mean, regardless of how they may have been playing this year, it's hockey.
It's AHL
Are you kidding
hockey.
me? It's in your backyard. It's right there. You've got cheap tickets. You've got an environment that is, if you've never been, it is awesome. I mean, that building gets rocking. It's almost, I don't want to say on behalf of a professional stadium from somebody who's been to MSG in a full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that place is. I mean, the building's going to fall down. But I mean, at Floyd over here, that building is. That place gets rocking on a Friday night when you get the Binghamton Devils in town. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I wish JR was living in town when the Senators went to the Calder Cup finals, because I've never heard that stadium rock as loud as I did during that playoff series. We will get back there someday, I hope to see. And just to see how everybody comes alive for it, it's truly something. Because like we say, we always hear in this area, oh, there's nothing going on, there's nothing happening, blah, 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 blah. If you go out and you find stuff, there's always stuff to do. And like we said, we got at least 3 sports teams that are worth going to check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Duffy has been going down to the Binghamton Bulldogs game. So if you find him down there, give him a shout-out too. Those are always a great games to go to see. Always something happening there. The Bulldogs are a fun team to watch. And it's truly something to go see. So, I mean, for like sports moments, yeah, that sticks out to me. And we are now, as we're taping this, 100 days away from the Rumble Ponies coming back. I can't wait to go back to the stadium and see what they got in store for us this season. It's going to be a lot going on.
I mean, I have to say, being the lone Mets guy in the team, I'm really stoked about it, because even now, not as we're recording, but this year, my Mets are coming to Syracuse. They're going to be in Syracuse. So now I've got my AA team, which is my backyard. An hour away, I've got my AAA team, and 3 hours away, I've got the Mets. As a baseball guy, that's what I'm all about. I've got my entire organization right here. And all of the games are relatively cheap. They're always a great time. It's awesome. I'm really stoked for the springtime. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And wherever you're listening from to, make sure you go out and support your teams. If you're in a big market, go support them. If you're in a small market, go support them. Because those are the truly experiences that you want to see and you want to remember and you will remember. Because like I say, we can ramble on and on and on and on about going to games here in town. I'm sure wherever you're listening at, you get the chance to go see it and have your own memories with that. JR, what's your memories here?
I think, so for me, I'm a big college basketball guy. Mm-hmm. Big Cuse Nation. Whew. Even though we had a bad loss to St. Bonaventure the other day at home.
Yes, you did.
Stop yourself. Back off.
Shout out to Duke.
Stop listening to this garbage. So for me, I'm being a massive college basketball. I fill out hundreds of brackets. I don't know anybody who doesn't, because filling out college brackets are amazing. But I think it was really awesome this year watching UNC, and I hate to say this, especially because we're now in the ACC, but to just give Gonzaga the business after they had the heartbreaking loss the year before to Villanova.
Yeah.
Only because I think that's some of the best, maybe aside from Skull Nation, I think that may be some of the best sports there really is college basketball. Especially come March Madness time. It's like you can't, like everybody's in front of their television watching these games because they're so awesome.
Nothing beats the Final Four tournament. That, in my opinion, is the best tournament in all of sports.
Oh my God! I tell you what, if I ever got a chance to go to Indianapolis to see a Final Four, I don't care who's in there. It could be Duke, UNC, Arizona versus. Doesn't even matter. I think it's fantastic. I think it brings a lot of people together because we all watch it. Everybody, even if you're not a sports fan, you make a bracket.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean. Like it doesn't matter who you talk to. You talk to the people outside of work, you talk to people outside of, whatever it is you're doing, outside of your clique, but they're always like, man, I'm going to make a bracket. You get your wives, they're going to make a bracket. You get the kids, they're like, I want to make a bracket. I want to get a chance. I think it's great. I think it's a really exciting time.
I think the only time I've seen something rival it is the World Cup, because the only way I'm saying with this is, if you don't have a team, like your favorite team is not in it for whatever reason, you're still watching the games. And you're still like locked in. It's crazy. But that's why I call it March Madness. But you just see that every team in there, of the 64, 68, however you want to determine like when your tournament actually really starts. I always say the 64. I'm just old school. When that tournament goes and just seeing whatever team goes, and you always see the Cinderella moments. You always see the big upsets. This is what makes sports fun, because it's just whatever team plays better that day wins. And you could have the greatest statistic team go against one of the worst ones. And if that worst one shows more heart and emotion, they're going to pull off that win. And that is something awesome to watch.
And the perfect, I can reflect on this because I know, because it's drilled into my brain, and some of my best friends know this, that every year I have like a Rolodex of teams I refuse to take to the Final Four because they've burned me from this March Madness. Yeah. And the one that burns me the most, and I'm not afraid to tell this story because it's amazing, was, maybe you've heard of this guy now, Steph Curry from Davidson. The year that I took Georgetown, and I'm like, listen, man, Georgetown, that team was on fire. They should have been a 1 seed, and they got the stick, and they got the 2 seed. Second round, they meet this team of Davidson, and you're like, I didn't even know Davidson was a university.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, whatever, just pummel them. And then you hear about this guy, like I said, Steph Curry. He just goes crazy. Didn't even know this kid existed. And now look at the guy.
Yeah.
He's the face of the NBA. And that's exactly why I'm like, now I know, okay, I'm never taking Georgetown.
Yeah.
Because if they see Davidson, I'm not taking him. I'm like, no way, Davidson for days, because they make shooters. And Steph Curry shows up and you're like, who is this kid? And Davidson goes on your run. Everybody jumps on Davidson because you're like, I don't know who this is. No. You start watching just for that reason. And every time we talk about March Madness, I think of that moment. And that's what I think is one of my favorites, because you constantly talk about it. You've got your stories, and it brings everybody together, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, this year's tournament was no exception. And stars are made. And every year you just find out like the next NBA player, or just one that is going to make a legendary college run, no matter what it is. Somebody becomes a star. Somebody has a deep run. And you just kind of have like all these weird kind of like, emotions hit you, just like, reminding you why you love sports.
And like I said, I mean, even going back to last year, you're watching the Final Four. That Nova Carolina game was probably one of the best games I've ever seen. I mean, you were on the edge of your chair. You're a Duke fan. I'm a Cuse fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching, like, shaking because this game is so close, so intense. And that crazy buzzer beater 3 to knock over Carolina. He's got the hand up. He's got, Kobe style, just drained it, the big 6'10" footer. Oh my God, like, what is this? Like, that's what I love about this. It always excites me when we start talking college basketball, especially come March Madness time. Forget it, man.
Yeah, we know when the brackets come out,
be awesome.
We're gonna trust me, that's gonna be that entire episode that week.
Cuse.
We'll see about that.
But I think so. I love my college sports. This one I tie into my other best moment of the year is also one of the worst. And I say that hesitantly. My worst, I say, being Houston, the disaster that was in Houston.
Yeah.
And I hate talking about it, but I feel like it gets overshadowed sometimes. And it's the tragedy and the support that whole city received from one man, JJ Swat Machine, was insane. I mean, he wasn't the only one who gave support, but he was out, he was hurting for his team, and he started this fundraiser which surpassed over $30 million to support the town that was absolutely pummeled by one of the worst things that's ever happened in that city in the history. And for him to step up like that when everybody talks, oh, they got all this money. Sometimes they think athletes don't help, they don't participate. They just make a boatload of money, they play a sport. That guy's hand delivering goods to families in need, helping out families. He's still doing it now.
Yeah,
and for him to go out of his way that way with the use of social media and everybody who helped, I mean, that's probably my best moment of the year, is the fact that you see this number one athlete, the head of a franchise, step up and really lead a charge when the city needed it the most. And what people joke about, like, oh, Tom Brady stepped up and led the Super Bowl. This isn't even close.
No, this isn't. No,
this is massive. Like, that's true leadership right there. Is he stepped up when he saw his entire town in need and tried his part to help, and that's like the epitome of man of the year.
You can't even wrap your head around just what a tragic event that whole town went through. Though, I mean, that part of the country went through.
Right.
And to see J.J. Watt step up and lead the charge and get donations and start helping people in his community, I mean, Sportsman of the Year without question.
Like, I mean, he's
but
leading.
Just Human Being of the Year, you got to put him up there, absolutely.
And like I said, I mean, just he's helping with boxes, he's giving care teams. I mean, he's helping with construction work. Putting sports completely aside, just really, really helping out a city that it was in dire need of it. To me, was probably one of the best sports moments, because that just showed the entire NFL community, and showing that that it's not just a football game, it's not just football teams. Like, there's people out there that really help and really want to care, and that's proof when JJ was like, I want to raise $1 million. They raised over $30 million, and he's out there delivering hand goods and doing his part to help. I thought that was incredible.
It was truly astonishing, and shout out to JJ Watt for doing that. Absolutely, keep doing what you're doing. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about his efforts down there.
Absolutely. And that's not even, like I said, that's completely sports related aside. What he does for that team on the field. Of course, they call him JJ Swat Machine because he's a beast and they can count on him. But man of the year by far as I'm concerned. That was probably my greatest moment, to see him step up, put on social media, and then continue the charge forward. It wasn't just a, hey, shout out, let's do this real quick. I mean,
it wasn't a flash in the pan. He was really
Right.
driving it home
Right.
and driving to really help the city that he's really just kind of taken. I mean, to be the face of a franchise there,
Absolutely.
sure, but you know what? He went above and beyond the call, and you can't have nothing but absolute respect for him. For
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that. Let us know what your moment of the year was. Hit us up on that social media, hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince, the Common Man Citoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be. Floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the third segment of this week's ODPH, and 2017 was a great year for sports. It was not a great year for some teams, though. And I think one of the worst case scenarios, and I hate even ragging on them because I don't know how they're doing it, but when Cleveland, the Browns, going 0-16 is never fun. Or 0-15 right now, I believe.
0-15 on the road at Pittsburgh to fend off the 0-16.
I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, my late dad was a big Browns fan, so they're my second team. And seeing what they're going through it's tough. And the city is definitely standing by their team, and they'll turn it around, but I don't think this is going to be the year. And this might be the second winless team in NFL history, I believe.
No, it'd be the third. Because
The
you
third?
have the Buccaneers of old,
Oh, okay.
the 0-14,
Oh, I forgot
orange
about-
creamsicle Buccaneers.
Yeah, I forgot about
those,
that.
those super awesome jerseys. Well, I think a lot of people try to forget that because of the jerseys.
Yeah, the jerseys
I don't know if you've
are
ever
awful.
seen them, but you should take a look.
Yeah, no, they're awful jerseys.
And then you had the infamous Lions,
Yeah.
which just saddened me so to see them in that bad a shape.
Well, that's your division. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not gonna have any sympathy for that, but I do sympathize for the Browns because coming back. I mean, when the team left for Baltimore and then they get the franchise back, and it hasn't been exactly the easiest transition back to winning, but they're getting there. I mean, this season obviously has not gone the way they've expected, but I think now they have a new GM in place, and he's talking a lot of moves that are going to hopefully help that team. Next year, I know they have 2 first-round picks, I believe.
Yeah, actually, if everything falls into place, they will have the number 1 pick for sure. However, they will also have the 6th overall pick.
Yeah, and they can definitely make some moves and get back on the winning track, hopefully. I mean, I sympathize for them. I definitely want to see them win. I mean, unless they're going against Buffalo, but I got to keep it. I got to keep it home. I got to keep it
That's
home.
honest. That's honest. That's honest.
But I definitely, I'm rooting for them that maybe they'll get the win. It's nothing against Steeler Nation, but I'm hoping that I don't like seeing any team go winless. That's just me, unless it's Miami.
There's the
kidding.
below the belt. There's the jab.
Kidding.
But seriously,
Someone, yeah. But in all honesty, yeah, it wasn't the best year for that. JR, what do you think was kind of the worst moment for sports there?
man, you know what? I feel really bad for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
And Browns fans. But shout out to Browns fans for, like you said, sticking with the team and doing the 76ers. It's got to be the process, man. Eventually, something's got to turn. But I think my worst is probably, I would say, the Giants, and how they really gave a franchise guy the shaft. And I know Coach Duffy's probably loving this chat, and I wish he was here for it as well. But I mean, he led your team to 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots, which he won. A man who has not missed a start. Granted, he wasn't. He talks about the record. He wasn't chasing it, but I mean,
As a competitor, you don't want to sit.
As sloppy as that was, and personally, I think that Eli's kind of on a really slippery downslope in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been throwing a lot of picks. Looks really bad. He looked really bad in Arizona this past weekend. But I mean, just like that guy is the face of your franchise. And that was almost like a huge middle finger, like, we're going to see the future. It's Geno Smith. There's no future in Geno either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just, to me, I thought that was terrible. I thought it was very classless. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, you got to ride it out. The Browns are doing it. They're not thrilled about it either, but at least they're riding it out.
Yeah,
and then just to give the complete shaft to Eli like that, like, he doesn't deserve that. Like, I'm sorry, but that's like, to compare, as far as I'm concerned, that's like if Brady was on the downslope and they're like, we want to see the future and we're gonna put in Blaine Gabbert. Come on, stop.
It was
you can't give him that. Come on.
I guess just how it was handled. I mean, granted, they did have a lot of injuries this season, and that happens in a physical game like football. There's no question of that.
Oh yeah.
But just how that whole situation got handled, and just every press conference will look at tape. You can't use that excuse.
You have a better answer than we're going to look at tape.
And then to sit your franchise quarterback who won you 2 Super Bowls for a week, and then you're going back. I mean, it was just a messy situation. I mean, I think that was probably one of, if not the worst moment for sports this year. It's kind of tough, but it's now obviously the Giants cleaned house, and it'll be interesting to see what they can pull off next season. Wherever I know they have a high draft pick coming, and obviously with the future of Eli Manning, if he's going to stay there, if he's gone, it just a lot of uncertainty. I know Coach Duffy will be blogging. If not, when he returns to the microphone, he will have a lot to say about this matter.
Real quick, does Eli start next year for the Giants?
I say no. That's my gut instinct is he will be the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If I have to if you ask me right now what I think.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go with that.
I would say, being that the Giants I thought were terrible, I would say probably the worst moment for a player may be the realization your Knicks and Carmelo Anthony realizing that maybe it was his fault, because it's kind of the same thing in OKC. Yeah. So I'm saying from a worst standpoint of the year, he may be having the worst year of all, realizing like he went to OKC, the ball stopped in his hand, and then they start moving it. Now they're running over teams. They just beat Houston on Christmas, which I think to many was a surprise. He's not taking as many shots. They're passing the ball around. They're looking really good, and now it's kind of like, oh, man, maybe that was my fault. I mean, that hurts.
It does. And especially if you're going to an NBA quote-unquote super team where you have all superstars on your front line, there is an adjustment period. For the Knicks, I mean, they are showing that they can win without Melo, which, I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow if you're a superstar.
Right.
I mean, for him, I'm sure he's got to be a little fired up about it, that maybe just his game wasn't meshing with the rest of the team that was around him. Because, I mean, Melo does a lot of isolation.
Right.
And he's very good at what he does, but if that's not working with the rest of your team, I mean, maybe that was the issue, because the Knicks have looked great since he's left. And I know Christmas Day didn't work out the way they exactly hoped, but still they were in it right to the end. And they're having younger superstars emerge. Where Oklahoma City, they're starting to come together now, but I don't think it's been the exactly easiest going.
No, and that's what I was saying. It's you're used to being the number one guy. He was in Denver for years. He comes to New York. He's front man, ISO. Melo, the big time 3 for the game winner. You're counting on him to be it. And you almost see like that shift in the league where ISOs really aren't. Maybe in like Cleveland with LeBron, you get those ISOs, and every now and again you get them, but you see a lot more of like the Golden State method where it's
everybody's involved.
That ball is touching, and it doesn't stay in your hand for a second. I mean, it's just it's gone, and then you get the open shooter, and that's the way the league is. It's no more, Melo at the top of the key, ISO everybody, you drive by him, or you do the free throw shot. I mean, you still get it with LeBron every now and again. I could say you can do it with Kyrie. They do it in Boston occasionally.
Occasionally, not as much.
Again, same thing like John Wall. It's rare, but they do. But it's a lot more of that, like pass, and the defense is all scrambling around, and then you've got the wide open guy in the corner for 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the NBA is kind of transitioning to the way Golden State is doing, because I mean they're the precedent for the current winning formula, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, they have a super team in their own right, so everybody's a great shooter on that squad. But I think teams are noticing that if you work for the open shot and you don't exactly go through the ISO method,
right,
to do it, you're going to be a little more successful. In OKC, I mean, it is an adjustment period because you're used to Russell Westbrook having the ball all the time. Now he does
double on every single night.
Yeah, but now he has role players with him, and now it's just kind of finding where they mesh in. But I'm sure if you're Melo, you got to be a little fired up. That not mad, but I think you just got to be kind of like pausing and going, what are they doing now that when I was there we couldn't do this?
Yeah.
And I think you got to take a look at that and go, well, they're not using ISO. Everybody's involved. And, I mean, Michael Beasley's having a resurgence of a career now with Porzingis and the rest of the squad there. I mean, it's something to watch. But yeah, you gotta say that probably is one of the downsides of sports this year. I mean, especially with how messy his departure was.
Right. And that's where I was going more or less. It's just how it all went down was just really awful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the one thing that happened from it was Phil is gone. And
best moment in sports for you.
Well, as I say, is if you're doing what you should be doing and everything is good and your team is being productive, yeah. But taking it back to even with the Eli situation, when your front office is fighting with your star players and it's now becoming like public knowledge and you can kind of see, and there's a lot of stuff getting leaked out of what is going on, it's going to make a messy situation. And being a fan, you don't want to see that happen.
No.
So yeah, with Phil, I mean, obviously he had his chances. He did make some great draft picks. I can't knock. The Porzingis move was a great move.
The unicorn.
It was.
As we talked about last week.
Yeah, which I can't knock. But I can knock about how the Melo situation was handled. I mean, it did really leave a bitter taste in my mouth. But now, with seeing how the Knicks are playing, me as a Knicks fan, there's hope.
Oh, yeah.
Not saying we're calling a chip, but I'm saying there's hope. I mean, who knows what's going to happen now in OKC? They still have some time to turn things around. I mean, still, it's Golden State's division until further notice. But at least now there's some competition going there. It's going to be interesting to watch when they get to the finals. I mean, obviously, we're almost at the halfway point if we're not already for the NBA, and still some moves are going to happen. Who knows? But I do agree that, I mean, it's just, when you ever see a messy situation like they had with the Knicks, it's good to kind of see that something good happened out of it. And you can almost say for both sides because Oklahoma City is starting to turn it around. Mm-hmm. So if it's a win-win out of such a bad breakup, hey, you got to take what you get.
Now, you know my negatives. What about for you?
Well, my negatives, I mean, there was one that just really sticks out, and I am the only boxing fan on the panel for
True
the most part.
diehard boxer, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I was, I grew up watching boxing, and I will be the one on my soapbox screaming Canelo Triple G all day. I'm waiting for the rematch because of how that went down. It's just one thing that drives me nuts to see a fight that was clearly one-sided end in that fashion. Like, I'm really trying to contain my emotions on this one because it still fires me up because that was the fight of the year. I don't care about Mayweather-McGregor. You can still hit us up on social media and try explaining how that was the fight of the year because it wasn't after the fourth round. Let's be honest. But I'm saying that the Canelo Triple G, that was the fight. And you know what? There was a clear-cut winner. Obviously, judges say no for a different reason. It is what it is. So when they do the rematch, which I will be watching, I might be the only panel member watching, but I don't care. I'm going to be screaming for the win. And if it goes into another draw, I'm...
For those who don't know, our host is very motivated by this because he actually has a 117, 111 as he's doing his ab crunch. He comes up and looks at it, and it just drives him to all kinds of frustration. And for those of you who don't know what 117, 111 is, that was the decision on the card that really swung it. How about you break that down for me? What does 117, 111 mean to you, big guy?
Nothing I can really say that's nice. So I'm just going to say... Let me just be very clear about that. I love boxing. I'm an old school fan. But I'm just saying to see a lopsided judging, I mean, there's been bad calls all year, whatever sport you watch. I'm sure you can name them. As recent as this past week with the Bills-Patriots game and a touchdown that should have been a touchdown and wasn't a touchdown. But we digress. But we're talking boxing, and this is just one thing that there's been a couple bad decisions. I know the Pacquiao fight shortly after.
Yeah.
That was a really bad judge's call. But to see the fight of the year, I mean, in my eyes, I mean, I was so amped up for this. I mean, I've written a blog. I've talked about it to anybody that will hear me in 2 feet of me. To see it end like that just absolutely fires me up. I want to see the rematch in the worst way possible, and I want to see a definitive winner. And that was probably one of the worst moments for me because being such a pure boxing fan that I am, to see the fight of the year, the real fight of the year, end like that is just heartbreaking.
And it didn't disappoint. I mean, that fight hyped right from the get-go, and I knew you were giddy about it right when they first lined, like, oh, this fight's, the thought of it happening, stoked. Mm-hmm. When they announced the fight, the location, and said it's actually happening, oh, you were bouncing off the walls, going crazy.
Yeah.
And then to watch the fight look good, awesome fight, didn't disappoint, and then this, the decision let it down.
I mean, I always live tweet when I'm watching a UFC or MMA or boxing on the Twitter OD Parlay Hour, and I was given my scorecard, and I did that, and trust me, I was very fired up at the end of that when I heard the decision because it just didn't make any sense. There's no way you can try arguing that. No, I'm not even hearing. Nope, not even hearing it. Let us know what your worst moments of the year for sports were. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. We're going to come back with the final segment of 2017.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final local minute of the ODPH for 2017. A couple of big events happening this weekend. First and foremost, Excite Wrestling is having their show December 30th at the American Legion Post 80. It is their Excite Fight Club. We've been promoting it a little bit on the Instagram page. Go check it out, excitewrestling.com, for more information. It's a show you cannot miss. And if you live out of town, hit them up on Twitch TV. They're going to be broadcasting the show on there. Binghamton Bulldogs are also in town Saturday night. They're facing Atlantic Coast, 7 o'clock on the 30th. BinghamtonBulldogs.com for more information. And New Year's Eve, the Binghamton Devils are hosting the Syracuse Crunch at the Floyd. Hit them up, BinghamtonDevils.com, for more information on that. So shout out to all sports in organizations going on in town.
Man, we got a lot of things going on this weekend.
There's a lot.
We're ending the year with a bang here in the 607.
Exactly. Simply put, we've been doing the show now since June. The show has grown, and we can't say thank you enough to everybody that's taken a download, a listen, a share, a like on social media to help us grow the brand. We are ecstatic to see the direction it's going. We are now on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube as well. We're not sure we're going to end up doing anything more on 2018, but not to say that the door is closed for that. But, I mean, I personally want to thank JR. I want to thank Coach Duffy. I want to thank Padawan J, Frederick Theodore from Thirsty Threads, Inc., the Common Man Vince Iatoli, Mike C. from I Am Horror, Bright Guy Signal for doing the comics blog on the site, and everybody who's been helping out with the show. The bands have been donating the music to us as well. Fair City Fire, Crimson Brethren, who their new project will be debuting, we're hoping maybe in 2018, and they will be coming on the Entertainment Edition for that as well. And last but certainly not least, Rye Bread. Shout out to Mike Pathy for donating some of the music on that you hear during our segment of the show, because we try keeping it local.
Yeah, no, it's incredible how we've started 6 months ago, and we thought, oh man, this would be really fun. Let's go ahead and kickstart it and see what happens, and then just all of a sudden we get some friends, we get the Fair City Fire guys like, hey man, you want to use our music? Go ahead, plug it right away. Crimson Brethren, same thing. Hell yeah, use our music. This is awesome. Giving us all the love and support here in the 607. It's been a massive shout out, massive help, and we want to thank everybody. It's been great.
Yeah, this has been truly a long, strange trip, but I will tell you what, it's definitely been a fun one, and we can't wait to see what 2018 has to bring forth.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. We've got, like you said, we've got possibly the Crimson Brethren surprise coming 2018.
Their new project, I'm not exactly sure, but shout out to Jimmy Gazdick. He has informed us that he will be coming on the show at some point. We're not sure how many guests he's bringing with him. We're trying to cut down his guest list from 50 to enough people to fit in the brand new studio. I guess we should drop a little spoiler on everybody too. Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire will be on the show mid-January. That has already been locked and loaded for that. And
he may also be teasing us a little ditty himself. He might get a little live in studio, maybe.
We got to talk to him. I don't know, because he did hear about your anti-Aaron Rodgers rants, and he was kind of like, I might have to do the remote from another room. I don't know if I can be in the same room as JR.
I may not actually get the invite to that show.
Yeah, I don't know. That we're going to see what happens on that. But in all honesty, though, we just want to say thank you to everybody. The support has been overwhelming. It's growing every week. We can't say thank you enough that you're listening to us wherever you're listening to us. We're trying to see everybody that's listening to us. Hit us up on that social media, hashtag ODPH or hashtag ODPHEE for the Entertainment Edition, because we want to interact with you. And simply put, we just can't say thank you for a great 2017, and we can only hope to do better for 2018.
Oh yeah, lots of big things coming. Really excited. Show's going in a great direction. Like I said, big shout out to everybody. Can't do it without you. So thank you for everything.
Absolutely. So on behalf of the Sound Guy Galore, JR, I am your host, Ken M. We're wishing you a happy new year, and we'll be talking to you again in 2018. You've been listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.
Instead of making promises in the dark, why don't we just play our part? 'Cause I'm all alone and you're all alone tonight. Act like lovers, but we're not even friends. You can see the end, but it feels good to pretend. No one is here to stay.